Look at these massive American territories: California, Texas, Nevada, Arizona, Utah, New Mexico. That's 8 big and today super wealthy states where nearly a third of the United States population lives. But 200 years ago all this land belonged to another country: Mexico. Why did they give it away? Because they lost a war started by this United States president. When he became president, he basically said, here's what we absolutely gotta do for America. Grab new land in the West, including annexing Texas and California. In less than 2 years, the states would snatch up about a half of all Mexican territory and completely crush their biggest rival on the continent. In the end of the day, one side becomes a global superpower and the other ends up working for them. And today, Mexicans are one of the hardest working and most cheerful nations on the planet. The country is confidently climbing into the top 20 biggest economies in the world, 13th in size, 10th in population, tons of natural resources and fantastic geographic position, access to 2 oceans and a rich neighbor next door. So how come with all that good stuff, Mexico is still one of the most dangerous, corrupt and troubled countries? This is the 3,155-kilometer US-Mexico border, and right on it sits one-of-a-kind city, Nogales. One half the United States, the other Mexico. Same roots, same culture, same climate, basically the same people. But statistically, it's 2 completely different worlds, split by this rusty iron fence. Compare this. In 2021, the Mexican side of Nogales recorded 365 murders. That's like 1 person killed every single day. And on the US side, not a single one. In the Mexican part, families make about 14 grand a year. Just over the fence, almost 32. And get this, in the US part, 2 out of 3 people have a college degree. On the Mexican side, just 1. So what's behind this huge difference when we're basically talking about the same city? In the book Why Nations Fail, the authors say it all comes down to how society is run. Throughout history, they argue, there are 2 kinds of states. Some create rules that encourage new people to rise up and take part in running things. There is competition, and those who succeed are free to earn money in a fair, open way. And the best part, they are not afraid of losing it all, because there are stable laws to protect them. And when new rich people appear, it's not because they robbed someone, it's because they came up with something smart and useful for everyone. And countries that follow this approach, they tend to succeed in every era of history. Then there is the other kind of the country, like that game King of the Hill. Everyone's just fighting to stay on top by pushing others down, and they keep changing the rules to protect themselves and suck everything they can out of the people below. Basically, in the first option, the government wants folks to be like ants, always walking, building stuff up, making pie bigger for everyone. But in the second, it's all about keeping others away from that pie and grabbing the best slices for themselves and their own crew. So let's test this theory on Mexico. Check out this man, his name is Carlos Slim. If you missed it, this Mexican guy was actually the richest person, and not just in his country, but on the whole planet, for 4 years straight. During that time he was wealthier than even the richest Americans. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, I mean all of them. His personal fortune was estimated to be around 8% of all goods and services in Mexico. Again, in a country of 112 million people, one man held some absolutely insane amount of wealth. Someone might say, well, look at Bernard Arnault, the richest guy from France. His wealth also makes up around 7% of France's GDP. But the difference is the Arnault family owns dozens of global brands that compete and sell across the planet. So what's the difference between Arnault and Slim? The latter made his billions through monopolies. What does that mean? His company Teléfonos de México At one point controlled 92% of all landline telecommunications in the country. And his other company, America Mobile, yeah, you probably haven't heard of it either, grabbed 2/3 of the mobile market in Mexico and the rest of Latin America. So what does Slim's success tell us? On the one hand, it shows that Mexico has huge potential, a big labor force and plenty of consumers. Today it's home to 129 million people, and by 2050 that number is expected to hit 160 million. Here's another key point. Wages in the country are very low, but Mexicans are some of the hardest working people in the earth. They outwork even the famously workaholic South Koreans. Put those two things together and you realize Mexico is perfect for cheap production of basically anything. Cars, for example. All biggest brands already have factories there. And at this point Mexico produces almost as many cars as Germany or South Korea. But here's the thing, most of the cars made in Mexico don't stay in Mexico. They head where? That's right, north, to the United States. And I'm sure you heard, that same route from Mexico to the United States, millions of regular Mexicans want to take it too.
Maybe I come around this side.
No.
Okay, maybe I come around this side.
No.
Okay, maybe I climb over top.
No.
Look at this map. Back in 2014, The Economist published it. It shows how many people of Mexican origin live in different US states. Officially, the number is already 37 million, but notice where most of them live. On the very lands that the United States grabbed from Mexico in the mid of 19th century. When the Americans took them, they picked the least populated areas. Why? To later settle them with Americans and avoid problems with the people who were already living there. But here's the irony. Everything the states took is by the 21st century half reclaimed by Mexicans and their relatives. Let's talk scale. In 2022, Mexican migrants in the United States sent $58.5 billion back home to Mexico. Let's compare it to something. What does Mexico make the most money from? Cars, trucks, auto parts, oil, computer manufacturing. Every single one of those brings in less than what Mexicans send back home to their families. Now think about who's the main and basically the only buyer of Mexican products. The United States. Essentially, Mexico is like America's cheap factory for everything, and the stash of backup labor for a rainy day. Speaking of rainy day, it's 1942, World War II in full swing. The United States is sending millions of its men to fight in Europe and all over the world. But at the same time, they're also the biggest supplier of weapons and food to the Allies. So where are they getting the workers if everyone's at war? That same year, the United States government signs an agreement with its southern neighbor. Under the deal, between 2 and 4.5 million Mexican migrants will come work on American farms or in factories or on railroads, basically to keep the engine of the world's top economy running. And when the war ends and American soldiers return to reclaim their jobs, the United States launch a new program, Operation Wetback. What's that? Under it, the United States deports about 3.5 million Mexicans back home over 5 years. But those are just official numbers. In reality, as you can probably guess, American businesses got so hooked on cheap Latino labor that they kept hiring them under the table.
Okay, maybe I climb over top.
No.
You need help building more fence?
Okay, come on over.
Because with these guys you don't owe them any benefits and you can pay, if you're being generous, half of minimum wage. The rest you keep for yourself and maybe a bit for bribes. That's why by 1950 up to 1 million Mexicans were already crossing the border illegally every year. And today that number just keeps going up. In 2022, US border police reported almost 3 million attempted illegal crossings from the Mexican side. How many actually got through? No one really knows. But the bottom line is fences, hit cameras, checkpoints, none of that stops people. Why are they running to America if Mexico's economy is growing with more and more high-tech factories from the world's biggest companies? Just think back how often people are killed in Mexican Nogales versus the US one. Now zoom out to the whole country. Mexico is one of the world leaders in murder rates. Drug cartels fighting each other have taken over the power in Mexican society.
$500 billion
That makes the cartel business and the drug traffic just in Mexico alone coming across the United States bigger than Walmart.
In 2019, a sitting US senator estimates how much money Mexicans make selling drugs in the States. He probably added too many zeros because most sources say it's 10 times less, no more than $50 billion. But still, you get the idea. That's on par with what Mexico earns from selling oil and other major goods. Of course, we can't know the exact number, but two things are crystal clear. First, the United States remains the biggest drug consumer in the world, which means tons of it are heading there. Second, what's the easiest way to get them across? That's right, through the Mexican border. Back in the day, Mexico was more of a middleman. Guys like Pablo moved Colombian stuff through it into California. But today, with the global boom in synthetic drugs, Mexicans are now producing them themselves. Look at these photos. On the wall are 4,000 faces, young Americans. They died from overdosing on the new threat, fentanyl and meth. When it comes to cocaine or heroin, you need large fields, someone to guard the crops, a whole production setup. But with the synthetics, it's way easier. You just grab a few Mexican mini cookers, give them Chinese chemicals, simple instructions with ingredient amounts, pay them 100 a day instead of 20 they would earn working on the farm. And in a day, you've got killers worth $1 million or $2 million. So where do cartels come in? They're the ones who set up the whole thing. Production, logistics, security. And these days it's not just about drug trafficking anymore. Take a look at these guys. Not elite special forces, but private combat units of a cartel. Now imagine what happens to society when there are tens of thousands of such squads, armed just like a real army. Natural question, why should they fear the authorities when they've got their own army and cash coming in non-stop? And the cartels keep expanding, openly stealing like oil and selling it directly to the United States. Or they even take over the business of exporting something as harmless as avocados. Yep, Mexico grows more of this trendy fruit than any other country. They even call it green gold. But while cartels used to just protect the business, now they straight up take over harvests, kick out or kill the farmers and start growing it themselves. And the profits are juicy. Up to $3 billion a year. And in this lawless competition, the murder rates skyrocket. So here's the logical question. Why can't the state get crime under control? Well, it's not like aliens are running the country. It's regular guys raised in the same corrupt system, feeding off it, tied into it. Meet Vicente Fox Quesada, former president of Mexico. He ran the country for 6 years, the maximum term allowed by law. And it seems like things were going well. During his time, the economy grew by 12%, and the murder rate hit historic lows. But take a look what happened with Coca-Cola consumption. In 1990, Mexicans were drinking 280 bottles per person per year. By 2000, 456, and by 2010 already 675. So what do Coca-Cola, the Mexican economy and the president have to do with each other? See for yourself. Before becoming president, Fox worked for Coca-Cola for 15 years. He even said, "My first political donations came from Coca-Cola employees, from bottlers or from company itself. That's how I got huge support, not just knowledge and great experience, but they backed my campaign from the start." Of course, that's not direct proof that because he worked at Coca-Cola and got money from them, the company's sales skyrocketed. Look at what's happening to the country in recent decades. Mexico became the top consumer of sugary soda in the entire world. People there drink more of it than even in the United States. On average, a typical Mexican drinks 2 small bottles every single day. Coke got so popular that even local shamans started using it in their rituals. What's the result of this Coca-Cola obsession? The number of diabetes patients in Mexico doubled, and now 1 in 7 deaths is from diabetes. At the same time, childhood obesity shot up by 40%. Altogether, 94 million Mexicans are now overweight. No other country in the world sees sugary drinks killing so many people. But that makes sense. Look at how much Coca-Cola has been investing in Mexico in recent years. About the same as what it puts into the entire African continent. Starting with President Vicente Fox, Coca-Cola took over 60% of the Mexican market. But the key part, the company solved one of the Mexico's biggest problems for itself: access to clean drinking water. To make sugary drinks, they need tons of it. Where do they get it? From local rivers and lakes. And in doing that, they take it away from the native population. Just so you get it, even Mexico City, the capital, sinks 40 centimeters into the ground every year. Why? Because the city is built on the old lake, and to get water for 20 million people, they pump it out from right underneath. Now imagine what it's like living in some rural province, where there might not be any plumbing at all, and if there is, the water quality is rubbish. Meanwhile, Coca-Cola guarantees that its drinks are made from the purest water and meet all international standards. So what do people choose to drink, and what do they buy for their kids? In reality, Mexico is yet another vivid example of what happens to a society and its people when commercial interests go unchecked. You're a multinational corporation and want to launch a new profitable operation? You're welcome. You're a wealthy neighbor looking for a cheap labor? Help yourself. You need the perfect geographic location to ship illegal substances around the globe without interference? Just don't forget to share. Who profits from all this? Multinational companies, rich neighbors, the drug cartels, and of course the politicians who cover for them. And what's left for everyone else? Poverty, crime, and a death rate that looks like this. Why don't the United States, the country that fights for freedom, democracy and security all over the world, help out their neighbor? Here's a curious detail. Back when the United States was getting ready to grab Mexican land in the 19th century, a top general, who'd soon run what we now call California, said this about Mexico: there is such a wide difference in race, language, religion and government between the United States and Mexico that a close political connection between them is impossible. And here's another big-time politician from that era, Vice President Calhoun. We have never dreamt of incorporating into our union any but the Caucasian race, the free white race. Are we to associate with ourselves as equals, companions and fellow citizens, the Indians and mixed race of Mexico? Now someone might say, come on, that was 19th century. We moved past the times of shooting Native Americans, lynching black people, and looking down on Mexicans. Really? Then why do we still build fences this tall and this long? Any talk about one country being better and the other just straight out of the 19th century. But honestly, the modern world hasn't gone that far. It's easier to build a fence, draw the curtain, and live by the rule. What's mine is mine, and what's yours, well, that's negotiable. And it looks like we're entering an era where there will be even more fences like this. The real question is that actually a solution? See ya.